Hello? 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 All right, you should be able to hear me now. So, you might be able to tell it's very hot in this room. It is, I'm sweating. And yeah, so, and yeah, pretty much here is the deal. Pretty much here is the deal. Pretty much here is the deal. Sorry, I'm just getting this organized. I'm not really huge on the streaming, so I'm just getting used to it here. But basically, here's what we're gonna have, right? Esoteric philosophy. I'm gonna be discussing Magic today by Manly P. Hall. If you don't know anything about Manly P. Hall, basically it's a Manly P. Hall is a Manly P. Hall is a fuck. Sorry, I'm just getting everything set up. I just went live here. So, all right. So, what is going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be discussing Magic by Manly P. Hall. It's Esoteric Philosophy. As you can see, Manly P. Hall is a Freemason from, I believe, let me look this up just to make sure I get all the facts right. All right. Oh my gosh, it's so hot in here. This is a nightmare. Okay, so yeah, Manly P. Hall is an American writer, right? He's an American writer, died in 1990, and he's an American writer, lecturer, astrologer, and mystic. And over his 70-year career, he gave thousands of lectures and published over 150 volumes. And is best known as The Secret Teachings of All Ages, right? And then here, let me look up Freemason. All right, there's one, two. He was initiated as a Freemason in San Francisco in 1954. So, this guy's pretty deep Freemason. I'm pretty sure he was a 33-degree Mason as well, which is the second highest honor. And he wrote this book, Magic, right? So, in part one, he talks about the children of false darkness. So, the false darkness that he describes is pretty much, if you think about darkness as in like white or black, right? There's light magic, dark magic, white magic, black magic, right? And pretty much the true darkness that he's describing in the beginning of this book, what darkness is it's the creator of all things. So all things come from nothingness, right? And that means um all things come from darkness in a sense. That's kind of hard to understand, but black is the basic not color of all things. White light is like a white color like this is when you combine all colors, right? It's not true. It's not really like anything on its own. Uh, where darkness is the creator of all things, right? And it's not an evil thing, this darkness, this initial darkness. So the first, the morning of blackness is basically when nothingness was created into the all. You know, you could think of this as the Big Bang or when God created the universe. And understanding that everything came from darkness, you can understand that darkness is not an evil in and of itself or necessarily evil. And I think that that is basically the main point of this first part, right? Here's a quote. There is a false darkness and a true darkness. The true darkness is the womb of light. The false darkness, the perversion of the light that pours out of true darkness. Natural darkness is the basic principle of things, while the false darkness is the result of debasing the power of the angels of Satan, right? The devil as the archetype. The devil, the archetype of misuse, is not a son of Saturn, but a son of man and the false darkness on earth. Man is the incarnation of the germ of mental intelligence. And black magic is only possible to intelligent beings. Absolute spirit minus all the sheaths of vehicles, unformed and uncompounded, is true darkness, the dimensionless basis of all that is, has been, or ever shall be, and the ultimate veil behind which all creation must retire. Absolute crystallization of the false darkness is the colorless vibration in the lower end of the spectrum, opposing the colorless vibration at the upper end of the spectrum. Both ends ultimately are swallowed up in darkness, one in darkness of spirit and the other in darkness of matter. So basically, that's the two sides of Satan and evil, in a sense, in this world, is if the true darkness is the foundation of all creation, right? There's nothing before there's something, then nothing at all is stagnation. And that is Luciferian evil. So that evil is almost like freezing you, you know? It's like cold and you're not doing anything at all. You're not creating whatsoever. And that's, you know, the evil of stagnating, the evil of, you know, sitting still, sitting in the same place. And the evil on the upper end of the spectrum is the satanic evil, where it's such a high vibration of everything that it's, again, darkness in a different sense. Because it's so much of everything that you don't really see anything, right? It's almost like if you're just living in so much energy that you're not able to see or comprehend anything. So, this is interesting. Nice illustration here. The macrocosmic man, the four births out of the body of Brahma. This will be relevant later. Man has no free will at present time, but merely the power of choice over a certain area of incidents brought by his ever-growing consciousness within scope of his comprehension. These incidents have been differentiated by his evolving organisms from his dark primum hail, or true blackness, or origination of man. I added that on. The greater his growth, the larger his area of his choices, and the greater his independence. So as you grow more, obviously you have ability to make more choices. You can think of this as You have more money and you're able to fuck up more, right? Versus if you haven't grown much at all, what can a baby really fuck up? The choices are very limited or non-existent at all, just like an animal. Why? Why? Why has always been the eternal question in nature, and the letter Y, as its like Y, as its phonetic equivalent, for it forms the sling that hurls the white stone at the forehead of Goliath. The latter represents the false darkness, while the stone represents the true illumination. In Egypt, the point where the arms of the Y converge was called the forking of the ways. The candidate for spiritual things always stands at the point where the three arms of the Y come together. Right? So, pretty simple. Carrying his hands the scales of discrimination. As long as he measures blindfolded, his weights will be just. But woe unto him if he removes the blindfold, for the two eyes themselves give birth to good and evil. See, good and evil is something that happened after the fall of man in the Bible. And that's kind of like removing the blindfold. You get this knowledge of good and evil from seeing the world. And that's both a blessing and a curse. Because you wouldn't call a lion evil for eating a baby gazelle. It's just natural. But once we have knowledge of these things and we take our eyes off of the diverging path, we realize we have a choice, then that's the birth of good and evil. The diagram accompanying this paragraph shows Y of choice passing upward through the four creations of Brahma. The line passing through the circle shows the path of evolution through those kingdoms of nature where there's no conscious reason, and therefore there's no revolt against the laws of God. The path of human progress and the forking of the ways, right? So coming up through this, you have the period of spiritual gestation, the prenatal epoch. Then you come to the physical worlds, the point of spiritual birth, when you start to become conscious. And while you're in these physical worlds, you can fork at any time, but if you just hold steady, you can come to the ethereal plane and then to the astral plane and then the mental plane, which is the most powerful but the hardest to control. And you'll notice most people in the world don't have any control of their minds at all. Kind of like where I'm at. Now, choose his own way. God's greatest gift to man and the cause of all suffering, the hope of immortality. If you hope that you can live forever, that's almost how we operate. We don't really act as though we're going to die, and we don't remind ourselves of it very often, if at all. So, those who take the path, number one, this is what will happen for those who take the path of black magic, right? Those who take this path choose that their immortal spirits shall be the servants of lower bodies, and in this way they involve themselves in ever denser materiality and enmeshing their consciousness more and more in matter. If this practice is persisted in long enough, the spirit will be unable to disentangle itself from the substances of the lower worlds and must remain enmeshed therein until the dissolution of the universe at the time of the night of Brahma, when the divine spark is cast back into the blackness of the infinite through the rings of Saturn. That's esoteric. And you might be wondering, like, what does esoteric even mean? Esoteric just means you need to have previous knowledge to understand something. So this is titled Esoteric Philosophy. You have to have some previous knowledge to even grasp what I'm talking about here. That's kind of the whole point of the reason why people write in this way, is because it's not really something that's meant to be understood by a mass of people. And it's not even really understood by me, because I don't even know what that even means. But I'm trying to. By taking this path, the ego attains darkness, but it is the darkness of the tomb and of unconsciousness reached through the path of perversion and negation. Its reward is the black death and the loss of the soul, and such an ego wanders in the great unknown without hope, reason, or understanding, while the endless wheels of chaos dissolve the bodies of which it has failed to make the proper use. So that's just true. If you mesh yourself fully in the material, you're absolutely going to be just, covered in it. And when that happens, it will consume you, because you can't hold on to anything in this life. And after you go, all of your materialism will go with it. It's like the Playboy guy, like the guy who owned Playboy. He's like became an old dude and just died, made Playboy, had all these fun times, but there's nothing left behind of that kind of life. There's nothing, but you just enjoyed the material. And when you die, in that sense, you get taken back into the material, and you didn't leave anything behind that's ethereal or beyond. Now we'll talk about the fruit of white magic. In taking this path, the spirit identifies itself with those who chose to liberate the divine essence from its bodies and have them for servants rather than masters. The consciousness unwinds itself from matter in a spiral motion and functions in even finer substances until it completely disentangles itself from form and consciously attains the resurrection. In so doing, it gains the power to mold matter into whatever forms are necessary for its labors. It crosses over into the worlds of spirit, and in doing so, enters what man can know only as darkness. Light is a form of emanation, and when we enter the divine presence, we enter the omnipotent darkness. This is the living shade over which we have perfect power, and which contains within itself all things unawakened, all things that are in unawakened potentiality. We have allied ourselves with the dark cause, right? The womb of light, and have become molders of the cosmic scheme. Path number 2 represents the non-existing spiritual equator dividing the poles, and is that ridge which divides the black and white paths, like the mystic line which separates day from night. It's sometimes they blend into each other, is I think what he's saying. And this spirit ignores opportunity. In this, the spirit ignores opportunity, rejects reason, and in this way comes under the law and mystery of the mechanics of opportunity. All action immediately sets into motion the law of reaction, which the ancients have called the law of karma, which is the factor employed by nature for the creation of the soul. The rejecting or ignoring of opportunity falling under the law of indifference and inertia fails to result in a reaction. This in turn results in the starving of the soul. Those who have ignored experience are called the soulless creations and are in the same position as those kingdoms, like the angels, which have not been given individual intelligence. The law of reaction immediately starts incorporating into the organisms the fruitage of the outward endeavor. In this way, slowly transmuting the entire chain of vehicles into intelligent symbols or images of the path chosen by the consciousness. As one or the other slowly grows within the being, the atoms of the opposing substances are crowded or forced out or slowed off for lack of cohesion. The battle of these opposing qualities in the various organisms of life forms the groundwork for the Great War of India or Armageddon of Christian theology. Through this subtle process of the student living in the white path slowly starves out or else transmutes the powers of the black ray within himself. That is, if he's able to stand the conflict which must first take place in his bodies. On the other hand, the student who takes the black path slowly eliminates or destroys all of the finer principles within until it becomes a very demon incarnate. Once having destroyed conscience, he does evil for the joy of it. All right, I'm going to be right back. All right, I am back. I am sorry, guys. This is an absolutely mess of a studio. It's too freaking hot in here. It's killing me. So, definitely when I figure out how to do the donation, I need a new AC unit. I'll just save up from my job. Anyway, okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. The mechanics of opportunity. Let's go back into this because I think that it's something that I kind of went in a little rush through. The mechanics of opportunity, okay? So, to understand this, it's kind of like karma, or like the way your actions affect who you are, and therefore affect what you affect in the world. Like, it runs through you because you are a divine being, and so it runs through the divinity of karma, or whatever you want to call it. Like, people think of karma as like only like, oh, you kick a dog and then you get hit by a car the next minute. It's not exactly that. It's that when you do negative things over and over, you're building up a rapport of negative energy that's going to overtake you, and you will become seen as that, and that will become you. That will become who you are. So be fucking careful with this shit. All action immediately sets into motion the law of reaction. Okay? And action and reaction, right? We can look up. I'm going to take a little detour and look up the 7 principles of Hermeticism. This is from the Kabbalion. If you never heard of the Kabbalion, it's pretty legendary. It's pretty fucking legendary. But it's number 6, the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law, and chance is but a name for a law that is not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing will escape this law. And that's kind of what he's talking about. All action immediately sets into motion the law of reaction, which the ancients have called the law of karma, which is the factor employed by nature for the creation of the soul. The rejecting or ignoring of opportunity, falling under the law of indifference and inertia, fails to result in a reaction. This, in turn, results in the starving of the soul. Those who have ignored experience are called the soulless creations, and are in the same position as those kingdoms which, like the angels, have not been giving individual intelligence. You're just this is called a bot. You're a bot. You just you you fail to even take an action. You're just all reactions. You're ignoring any opportunities of choice. The law of reaction immediately starts incorporating into the organisms the fruitage of the outpoured endeavor. In this way, slowly transmuting or transforming the entire chain of vehicles. Another word for vehicles is like the entire chain of events, or things that happen, which is a vehicle of, like, you're a vehicle through time. Your body's a vehicle, into intelligent symbols or images of the path chosen by the consciousness. As one pole of the other slowly grows within the being, the atoms of the opposing substances are slowly crowded or forced out or slawed off for lack of cohesion. The battle of these opposing qualities in the various organisms of life forms the groundwork for the great War of India, or the Armageddon of Christian theology. And through this subtle process, and basically what he's saying there is that these theologies, like the Bible and all these things, is it's a map for you, for your individual person. Right. Through this subtle process of the student living the white path slowly starves out or else transmutes the powers of the black ray within himself. That is, if he is able to stand the conflict, which he must first take place in his bodies. On the other hand, the student who takes the black path slowly eliminates or destroys all of the finer principles within himself until he becomes a very demon incarnate. Once having destroyed conscience, he does evil for the joy of it. Also, if you guys have any questions, drop it in the comments or in the chat, and I will answer it immediately because it's just me here. You got me. Magic is the art of manipulating the unseen forces of nature. And a magician is one who is capable of juggling the four elements of bodies. Let's go back. The chakras, you know, this is more of like a Western version, which integrates kind of some of these Eastern ideas. A magician is one who's capable of juggling the four elements of bodies. A magician is one who is capable of consciously molding the substances of matter of the 3.5 worlds of material substance. Again, I don't even know what a lot of this means. I'm just trying to interpret it in a way that's more digestible for you. I do think there's intense knowledge and intense stuff in this book, and I wouldn't chalk it up to gobbledygook bullshit. Because, like, if you look at this guy, Manly P. Hall, the author, like, this dude's legit, like, 33rd degree Mason, and we all know how influential the Freemasons have been, not only in the founding of America, but around the world. And I do think that the way to think about these magic or whatever is not as something like, oh, I created a fucking bird out of my hands or whatever bullshit. I set all my streams to mature audiences because I just curse. I'm just like a like despicable, like, not despicable. Like, I think I'm a pretty nice guy. I try my best to be, but yeah, just yeah. Okay. So, a magician is one who's capable of consciously molding the substance of matter of the 3.5 worlds of material substance. And a white magician is one who is laboring to gain the confidence of the powers that be. That's what I hope to be, you know? God, it's fucking terrifying to try to be anything, you know? Like, just to put yourself out and be like, yeah, judge me. Powers that be, judge me. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at, is one who's laboring to gain the confidence of the powers that be and prove through the purity of his life and the sincerity of his motives his worthiness to be entrusted with the great arcana, the wand of Magus. And I don't feel worthy, you know? I've fucked up in my life. I've given into temptations and black magic, and since I started gaining consciousness around 11 to 12 years old, it's been a battle. But I can't, you know, I can never give in to the false darkness. I could never give in to the dark black magic. And I just don't think it's right. A black magician is one who seeks to gain authority over spiritual powers by means of force rather than merit. In other words, he is one who's trying to storm the gates of heaven and one who's seeking spiritual power and occult dominion with an ulterior motive. The black magician's motto, this is very important. The black magician's motto is might is right. The white magician's motto is right is might. So when you're right, when you're doing what's right, might will come. Gray magic is the unconscious or subconscious perversion of power. Yellow magic is the failure to learn how to prevent the perversion of power. Black magic is the use of spiritual power to gratify animal or selfish proclivities. White magic is the right use of spiritual power consciously and objectively. I still feel like I'm a person who's susceptible to black magic, you know? I want sometimes those dark desires. And that's, you know, something that's hard to admit. And it's like, it's something that my animalistic part of me desires, but I don't necessarily like, I don't want it. Like, my higher self says, is disgusted with myself. Every living person is in one of these four classes, and it's important that each should analyze himself and see which class he is in. Yeah, I feel like I'm in the yellow magic area where I'm failing. I've failed, you know, to learn how to prevent the perversion of power in a sense, especially like growing up since I became conscious. But I'm trying to go towards the white path. Even the greatest of white magicians can become a degenerate in an instant if his motive becomes unworthy. The white magician serves humanity. The black magician seeks to serve himself. I mean, that's the only reason I'm streaming this. You know, I don't know anyone out there listening. This is like a fucking broadcast to everyone and no one. You know, it's just me here. So say hi if you're a human being out there because you know you know it's cool. But yeah, it's like I want to serve humanity, but also part of my motive is like, am I doing this to serve myself? But no, no. Obviously, I'd like to be escape the matrix and stop being stuck in this job and all that. But yeah, anyway, yeah. White magician serves humanity, and the black magician seeks to serve himself. And it's like, I just want to be free almost, if that makes sense, where I'm not only seeking I'm not seeking gratification of myself to just continue that and stay quiet. I could never do that. The only reason why I want to be free is so I can do all this all the time and just keep broadcasting my pirate signal out. The black magic of the past, the darkness that sank Atlantis when man made slaves of the demons of the elements and chained them to do his bidding, still survives to this day. The black magic of the Middle Ages, with its witchcraft and orgies, is not dead. Only its form has changed, like all other forms in nature. It is incarnated again in our age with all its power and fury. It's gnawing as in the days of old at the very heart of our civilization. And if it is less, ugh, and if it is left unredeemed, will tear down and destroy our race. Under the garb of right, it masquerades as the messenger of the Most High. Charles, come here. This is my cat. All right. His name's Charles. Look this way, buddy. Oh, no, you can't get on the table. I'm so sweaty in here. It's such a hot room. Jeez. Go hang out by the AC, man. In the other room. All right. Under the garb, it will tear down and destroy a race. Under the garb of right, it masquerades as the messenger of the Most High. Yet under its oral promises forever lurks the menace of the goat of Mendes. In its false shadows hide the furies of hell and the vampires of the astral plane who suck your energy and take it away. As the black magician is no legitimate means of securing his power, not having passed through the school of reclamation, he wanders the earth like werewolves of old, vampirizing humanity in order to secure the vitality which he must have to continue his operations. All who are not consciously fortified in the path of right are possible victims of these monsters of inequity. All who are not consciously fortified in the path of the right are possible victims of these monsters of inequity, who are not consciously on the right path and firmly established in the way of sincerity and truth, are in eternal danger of these harpies who float like soulless specters in the tide of evolution. I'm sorry, I'm going to be right back to wash the sweat off my face. But 24 is where I left off. Be right back. All right. We're back, chat. We're back. All right. Sorry. All right. All of you who are not fortified in the path of the right are victims, possible victims, coming up of this inequity. I'm telling you, if you're not fortifying yourself on the right path in this life, if you're a young kid out there listening to this, like while you're playing a video game or whatever, be fucking careful. Because I was like, oh, whatever, whatever, whatever. Oh, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. Oh, it'll be cool. Dude, every fucking desire you want could happen. Make sure you shield yourself, is my point. Because you want to make sure that you're achieving these things in the right way through marriage, through, you know what I mean? Like righteous things. They have the power of invocation demons who serve them, while the impartial natural law is misused hourly that they may perpetuate themselves. The power of the light in their hands becomes but a scepter of death. From many hands wield spiritual powers whose hearts are dead, whose minds are rotting dens of iniquity, and whose souls have long since bid them goodbye. And they are lost beyond recall to this life wave, for they have killed out even the germ of good within themselves. All right. They battle on, however, clinging desperately to life at any price, realizing only too well that eternity holds nothing for them. May the mercy of God rest upon them. Spirit is matter inverted. Matter is spirit inverted. The beast is God defiled. All right. So, I'll leave with this. The spirit is God, and the matter is the dog. The beast versus God. And dog has the power of God within it. But you can see that. So thank you so much for tuning into this first episode. Next episode, we're going to be doing part 2 tomorrow. The Power of Demons. Okay, I'm going to be doing more pre-reading. It's going to be even better than this one. We're going to come back, and we're not going to fucking stop until we're spreading the power of the light, the power of the true darkness, the power of the white path to as many young and people out there who are still making their life happen. Because listen, what we need is fucking good people. Good people in this country. We need people, righteous people. We have enough fucking degenerates and shitty ass people. And I'd even say, I could be considered part of that. But I'm trying to right my ways and not just say fuck it so much. So thanks for checking this out. And everyone have a peaceful night. Check out, different good content. Look more into this if you're interested. It's Manly P. Hall, right? This is the book, Magic. Pick it up if you're interested. But yeah, I gotta get out of here now. All right. Thanks so much, everybody.